What is this show, man? I just need to know, what is this show? What's up, my know-it-alls? Well, it's time for another review of Willow, the TV series from Disney Plus by Lucasfilm. And we're looking at the penultimate episode, episode 7, Beyond the Shattered Sea. In the immemorial city, Eric befriends the young woman who claims to be Lily of Kashmir. He also experiences a vision of his sister Kit drowning and being rescued by Elora. Meanwhile, Elora and her companions continue their journey across the Shattered Sea. They reach a cabin inhabited by an elderly fisherman named Zeb, who claims to be an adventurer. The group rests but is forced to leave the cabin when the gales attack. They escape on a carriage drawn by a mudmander named Kenneth, whom Graydon befriends. During the journey, Elora continues her training with Willow but struggles to reach her full potential. Kit and Elora also resolve their differences. Meanwhile, Lily flirts with Eric, who's initially resistant due to his love for Dove. Eric eventually gives in to Lily, who performs a ritual on him inside the temple. Elora and her companions eventually reach the edge of the Shattered Sea, Elora and Kit jumping over the edge, finding themselves in the Memorial City, where they encounter a very different and somewhat changed Eric. Right? Like, I'm trying to... Bro, this is such a... So, I enjoyed this episode, which the roller coaster of what this show wants to be is just unreal. You're still getting all the stuff where they're not being very... where they're very contemporary with their speech and whatnot, and these aren't things that bother me. They do, but they don't. In that everybody else who's of a certain age, again, they all know what kind of show they're in. Everyone who's all the Gen Zers and whatnot are not. They're in a completely different show. Anyway, yeah, like the thing said. So the episode starts with. We continue right where we left off, which is with, she's under the water, and this time Eric himself has gone into the water. He's gone into the pool, and he sees his sister, and they reach hands, and they're about to touch hands, and that's when she gets pulled out, and she freaks out because she's like, I saw Eric in there, and the whole bit. It's all a thing. When they arrive at the shoreline to the Shattered Sea, that's that scene we've all seen before where, and I think I had it up on one of the screens last week, where they're all looking out into the sea and it's just them standing there. It was one of the promotional images from the very beginning. And what you get is this idea that they have to go through to the other side. So they start their journey. It takes them a while, but they eventually get to that cabin. And while they're there, they meet this guy. He's super weird. He's got a fishing he wants to cook for them and the whole bit. And he's got the mudmander, and they meet him. The mudmander's hooked up, and they're like, oh, he's hooked up to this sled that is like a sled wagon. Wagon on giant, sled whatevers. And I guess it carries them through on the thing. And then he tells them a story, and the story is that he was once an adventurer. The first story, I believe, is probably the truth, and then he goes in and out. The Princess of Kashmir was kidnapped, and they were sent to rescue her, him and his companions. And apparently they all got lost at some point, or at least they kept wandering the Shattered Sea, never ever finding her and forgetting to the point of why they were there. And he says, oh, our mission was to get her, our mission was to do this, our mission was to stop this evil, and all these things. And so they end up, finally the gales attack. They really quickly, they were originally going to offer to buy the stupid wagon, and dude was like, well, we gotta go after dinner and this and that, whatever. So eventually the gales, the vulture chick is the one who actually does the shocking, and she shows up, and they're all running, and finally they get on the thing, and then you see them burst out of the side of the wall of the thing, and they're just going, and everybody, and it's, dude, Graydon, I'm like, who's this guy? Graydon's coming to his own hardcore. And as they're going, You see them, and they're both Elora and Willow are trying to shoot at them. You also see the Lich. The Lich is riding on something, heading toward them. And at one point or another, they're doing stuff, and next thing you know, Graydon on instinct grabs his flute and goes boom and shoots this purple energy, and it obliterates the vulture chick. So I'm like, oh, okay. And so then the Lich reaches up, manages to get onto the wagon, reaches up. Elora goes to hit him, and the Lich grabs her by the wrist and shows her things. Briefly, there's a vision of someone who looks like a dead woman. It may be a representation of the crone, because it's not the Lich. The Lich is this guy with the thing on his face. And so she now has information. And they get away, they manage to throw him off the thing, whatever else, and he stands, and he's like, whatever. And so they as they're going, they stop at an island. And so, which are these little islands. So when they stop at this island, this little island thingy, she's like, get up, it's time to train, let's do it. And you're like, oh, okay, and Elora wants to train. So they both start training, and Willow teaches her some quick defensive words and this and that. And then you see that Kit and Jade are watching, and Kit's like, hey, get up, we're gonna train too. She's not the only one that's gotta be ready for what's coming. And she's like, and don't you dare hold back. So you got Elora and Willow training, you have Jade and Kit training, and everything, there's a whole set of events going on. Meanwhile, dude keeps, Borman is trying to figure out what's wrong with him, because he thought he was, I guess he thought in his mind, I'm special, I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever, and then the moment came to try to activate the cuirass, and it didn't work. And so he's very, he's upset, and he's not happy, and he feels like he's not special, and he's very depressed. You do not get the normal Borman we've had this entire series, this episode. And so Willow and Graydon have a quick conversation, and Graydon, he says, that was kind of interesting what you did before, and he's like, yeah, no, it was more instinct. Graydon's essentially got the makings of a sorcerer. He's ready to, he's choosing, and he said, and Willow even says, these magical, like wands and things like that and whatnot, and talismans, those are things we use to channel and focus our energy through. So Graydon has chosen to use that out of instinct. He's using his flute to channel his magical power. Okay? All right. You with me? Good. Now we move forward. At some point or another, Lily, or the girl who says she's Lily, which, by the way, I've always known, if you couldn't tell she was dirty the minute she showed up, I'm like, okay. She come to find out she reveals she's the one who brought Eric there. And Eric freaks out, and he does what every smart adventurer should do, runs. Okay, since the Bible, there's a problem, you run, and he ran. Suffice to say, he couldn't get away. Anyway, and so as they keep going, they're riding this thing, and eventually you get to this moment where they have to, they're like, we've been going for days, weeks, maybe even months, who knows. So there's been a protracted amount of time they've been on the Shattered Sea, heading out toward whatever. And finally, I guess one of the nights that they stopped, they are resting, and Graydon asks for a moment with Kenneth alone, and come to find out, I guess Kenneth was getting sick, and Graydon didn't want him to die, so Graydon releases him. So they are stuck there, and everyone's freaking out. Willow had a dream, one of his vision dreams, where he believed he saw Mims. And Mims is basically under attack. She's hurt, and he's like, I don't know what we're gonna do. I have to go home. I shouldn't have come. I'm not ready to do this. I shouldn't have come. And they're like, we need you. You can't help her if you leave. So then this thing with Graydon happens, and now they're stuck. And Elora has to be the one to remind him, you said when we cross it. We need to continue on foot. And they go. And as they're going, they eventually arrive to what looks like the edge of the world. The entire thing falls off, and there's water spewing off the edge, and they're upset and they're angry, and he's like, I was wrong, and this and that, and what are we going to do, and the whole bit. Elora, she's the one pushing them forward. And then Kit joins her. And they look at each other because they know what has to happen. And they both make the decision and they hug and she says, let's do it together. And the minute I was like, oh my God, they're going over the side. 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 Sure enough, they went over the side. And when they do, and you don't see any of the party again for the rest of this episode. They land and arrive in what looks like a pool. The pool, they climb up and they're on the same edge that Eric was on. So a couple episodes back, Eric, if you remember, he tried to run away or tried to see how far out the desert went, and it looped him right back, and he was back at this hill. That's where they are. They're at this hill overlooking the immemorial city. They go down, and sure enough, man, they get to the pool, and the door opens. And a pretty good looking Eric in a black leather outfit, and his hair's cut. And of course, I told Mrs. Know-It-All, I said, this show, if nothing else, it's going to have an amazing soundtrack because the song that they play is it's awesome. I don't want to get demonetized, so I'm not going to play it here, but I'm telling you, you need to check out this song. It's amazing. So there you go. Now you know, and if knowing is half the battle, you are halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. So, what is my know-it-all index? Well, one, I feel like I should penalize this show for giving me a good episode after 2 really crap ones. But I did enjoy the episode, even with the whole out of context speech and the references and whatever else. Because they use like crap and different things. Again, very modern talk from the Gen Z people and younger. All the older folks don't talk this way. I'm gonna give this episode I'm gonna give it a begrudging 8.5 out of 10. I say begrudging because I'm like, why y'all fools trying to sit here and give me something good toward the end of this thing? So help me, the final episode better be amazing. I was so mad, by the way, that I watched this at 5 in the morning. I watched it this morning, way early. But I was so mad that I did not do the review until now. I just finished the review and posted it right now because I was so pissed off at this entire episode. So yeah, go see it yourself. Comment below. I'd love to know what you thought of the episode. What have you thought overall? We're going to talk more about that next episode or next week with the final episode. But yeah, man, stick around, everybody. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.